And we are back for episode 9 of Quantum Alchemists. And we're going to
Welcome,
do a
everybody.
little double dip here on Electile Dysfunction, Electile Dysfunction 2, Election Boogaloo. I I am one of your gracious hosts, Mr. Alchemistic, but you can call me B. And I'm joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Romero Vingian, Alex Romero, also known as Mr. Quantum.
What's up, everyone? What's up, B? Good to
What's
see
up,
you again.
man? Yeah, man, I'm feeling great.
Are
My
you wearing your Line of Judah shirt?
what's that?
Are you wearing your Line of Judah shirt as you're pointing to your LA Dodgers hat?
No, this is actually Osiris. This is
Oh,
the
Osiris, yeah.
Osiris shirt. We're getting
Yeah, I
Egyptian
messed up.
here. Getting
Yeah,
Egyptian here with Osiris.
right. The LA Dodgers. Is that
Yes,
your
sir.
Dodgers?
Dodgers, baby, won the World Series. Um,
Woo!
which I actually kind of wanted to talk about just to lead off the podcast here before we get into the election stuff. Um,
Sure.
I want to talk to you guys a little bit about fractal evolution. I had a really interesting experience I wanted to talk about. And, we've talked in the past about the patterns of reality and that this is just a fractal. If you know what a fractal is, it's a pattern that as you sink deeper and deeper into the pattern eventually repeats, right? And that's what this reality is. It's a cyclical fractal. If you don't know what a fractal is, look it up. But that's what this reality is. And it's we're all a little piece of this fractal. We're a part of this pattern of existence, of energy,
Right.
of reality. And it's just why I believe it was Gandhi that famously said, if you want to change the world, change yourself. And it's because we are a part of it. And if we change ourselves, we can change the fractal. And I had a
Right.
really interesting meditation experience. And I want to take credit for the Dodgers World Series victory in Game 5 because
B
so
made it happen, y'all. B
I
made it
did.
happen.
I believe I did. And people could call me delusional or say it's preposterous, and maybe it is, but I'm going to stick by the fact that I changed the fractal and it led to the Dodgers
Victory.
game. And I'll tell you why I believe this, right? So, like I said, it's a fractal. It's this pattern, this series of patterns of energy. And I'm a long suffering Dodger fan. I've been a Dodger fan basically my whole life. I started playing baseball and following the Dodgers after Kirk Gibson famously hit that game 1 homer for the Dodgers in the World Series is when my parents started getting us into baseball when the Dodgers won that World Series. And I proceeded to go through years and years of just painful fandom. If you're a Dodger fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Grinder.
We would have these great seasons and we get to the playoffs and we would fail over and over again. It became this like angst, right? That we was just a pattern, a cyclical pattern of every year we would have some fucked up shit happen in the playoffs and we
Always,
would blow it
always
and
falling short, huh?
we
Always
would
falling
choke.
short.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Especially in recent years we had 2017 where the Astros famously cheated to win that World Series against us. This was the first World Series we've been in since '88, and it was like this huge thing. And they cheated to win. And then there's just years and years and years of just angst. And we finally won it in 2020, but it was the COVID shortened season, so a lot of people didn't give us credit for winning that or say, "Oh, it was a fake title, Mickey Mouse ring." All this shit, and I thought that that title would bring me relief of all this angst, but as the years progressed past that title, it became obvious that no one was going to give the Dodgers their due until they won a real one, right? So
You know what's
that
interesting about that real one is of all the teams that could have been playing, for this real one, they were playing the Yankees, right?
Mhm.
Which right now, one of our last podcasts, we talked about the polarization of things, and this is very fitting. The polarization of the far right and the far left, you
Mhm.
know, the Wall Street versus Hollywood. I mean, like, however you want to look at it, but yeah, I mean, it's just epic freaking game. I'm
It
sorry,
was a,
please continue.
it was an epic matchup, and it's something we waited. I in my whole lifetime, the last time they met was '81. I was born in '82, so I'd never seen a Yankees Dodgers World Series, and I'd been anticipating this matchup my whole life, having a Dodgers Yankees World Series, and we got teased a couple of times, and it never happened, and it finally happened this year. So Anyway, I'm a long suffering Dodger fan, a lot of fucking angst. And a couple of years ago, we lost to the Padres in the first round. We broke the Dodgers record for wins in the season, and then we lost in the first round of the Padres. And I said, you know what, that's it. This because this is something in my spiritual awakening that I kind of realized as a pattern that I needed to alleviate. I need to get rid of this angst and like the Dodger games would literally affect my mood. Like every October, I would get this angst and I get real anxious, and then we'd lose, and it'd be like, my whole year is ruined, and it was
You
affecting
basically
my
got
life
you basically got left with blue balls every year.
pretty much. Besides 2020, but like I said, like people didn't give us credit for that title. There, everyone else talked shit about that title, and so I stopped watching during the season. I told myself, you know what, I can't watch during the season anymore. We're gonna make the playoffs. We have a good enough team to make the playoffs. I'm done watching during the season. So the last two seasons, after years, like my whole life, I've been following them religiously. This is the one team out of all of sports that I fucking love, like love, to a really detrimental degree in my life where it would like affect my moods and it wasn't healthy. And I realized it as a pattern I needed to get rid of. Right. So I haven't watched any regular season games.
So when
Sorry
riots
guys.
break out, it's because of people like you,
Yeah,
huh?
I would get real superstitious. Like one year we played the Cubs, right, in the playoffs. And there was this game where we blew it like late, like it was like late in the game. I don't remember what game it was. I think it was in 2017. We ended up going to the World Series that year, but it was like game one or two of that series. I was watching the game with my then girlfriend, and
Uh-oh.
they blew the game, right? Like in the ninth inning, the Cubs came back and won, and I got so pissed off that I grabbed the fucking controller for the computer for the TV, and I fucking chucked it down at the ottoman that was right in front of the couch, right? I chucked the fucking controller in frustration, and I didn't see that my girlfriend's foot was on the ottoman, and the fucking
Uh,
controller hit her
uh,
foot. And she started crying. It was this really traumatic thing for her, and it was just awful. It was just I felt
sure,
terrible. That
sure.
was that was my first, the very first indication that, hey, this is a problem, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, fast forward to 2022, we blew it to the Padres. I'm not watching next year. So all last season, I didn't watch it all, and they blew it again in the playoffs. They lost to the Diamondbacks, and so I didn't watch it all during the regular season. This I held out. I held to my guns, and then I've come out to Georgia here, and my mom is a huge Dodger fan as well, and we've been watching this whole playoff run. It's the only games I've watched this season. And I had been able to alleviate this thing. It's something that I fixed, the pattern I had fixed in my life. And this playoffs kind of brought it all back. It was like this pattern was starting to emerge in me again, right? This anxiousness, this angst, this oh my god, and it was start. My whole like mood was starting to shift with every game, and I felt it, right? And but we won. We won. We got to the World Series. Game one was incredible with Freddie with that grand slam. Game two, we won. Game three, we won. We're up 3-0. And my brother sends me this text, and like only one team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in baseball, and it wasn't in the World Series. The Red Sox in 2004 in the ALCS came back and beat the Yankees 4 games in a row, right? So my brother texts me, "Hey, they got it in the bag. They got to really fucking melt down to blow this one." And that was like a little seed planted of doubt planted in my mind, right? So I'm just like, "Oh fuck, why'd you have to say that, dude?" So I start getting anxious again, right? So I'm feeling this pattern within me, and this goes back to stuff we've talked about before, like childhood wounds and this and that. Stuff like this is just an excuse for your those wounds to emerge from other things,
Right. You could
right? We
justify it. And my team lost.
we live vicariously through these things, like our sports teams and this and that, and so it's just an excuse for these patterns to play out from other traumas in our lives.
Man.
And then I was feeling, I was just like, fuck, I gotta stop. Like, I gotta fucking get this under control, right? So, game four happens, the Dodgers lose, and I'm like, oh, here we go, man. And I start having these like fucking visions in my head of the Dodgers fucking losing this World Series. Like, it would have been historic for the Yankees to come back. Right? And I start getting this anxiousness. Oh, fuck, oh, fuck. And then game five was the other night, and the Yankees came out and got a 5-0 lead and the anxiousness is just peaking, right? Like my heart's fucking pounding, and I'm like, fuck, I need to just step away from this game. right? I step away from the game, and I'm like, I need to go meditate because I've kind of fallen out of doing these. I do the Hertz meditations, right, where I listen to the Hertz frequencies, and it's a really powerful form of meditation.
Does
So
it
I
hurt when you do
no, no,
it? I'm
it's
totally
very
kidding.
yeah, yeah.
Totally
Actually, this one kind of did hurt because it was like I was feeling this anxiousness, and it's just it's all those old wounds of other shit too. It's all these things piling up in within the emotional body. So I'm like, I need to go meditate. So I put on this meditation. I call it fractal meditation because you escape the body and you go into the emotional 5D outside of space and time, right? You really like it's like the Matrix almost, where you're in the white room and your whole life you can access your entire catalog of life, right? It's all your whole all the traumas and shit. You can access it.
it sounds like you went to the Akashic Records.
Basically my own Akashic records,
Yeah.
right? So I'm trying to alleviate this angst, and it's all the other shit I got going on in my life. Like I've detailed this in past podcasts of like, I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life. So I'm meditating, right? And I'm in the 5D. I'm like outside my body. I'm accessing all these pain and trauma, and like it's old stuff, old memories are fucking. I'm like healing from all this stuff, healing from these old memories, these
I
old
can
patterns
imagine.
yeah, it's intense, man. I think I shared it with you, the Monroe Institute. It's called the Gateway Experience. It's really powerful meditation. If you guys look into this stuff, guys, it's really, really powerful. It'll change your life if you guys do this meditation program. Um, so I am deep, dude, deep in my emotional body, just clearing out, and I'm fucking going through all these traumas. My dad's death. I had this really traumatic cat death, right? This cat that was like my kid died in my arms just suddenly. It was like it was so traumatic. And my aunt's death, I watched my aunt die from cancer like before my eyes. She died in front of me, and just all this painful shit. And I'm fucking rooting it out, and I'm like just rooting it out, and just getting to this coming to the moment, right? Like coming into this state of peace, right? In this meditation, and just clearing out this shit, trying to get rid of this angst about the stupid Dodgers. And in the process, I'm in this meditation, and I'm upstairs and they're downstairs watching the game, and I hear Tom clapping, like extensively clapping, right? Like super excited. I'm like, okay, something good's happening. Um, And if you guys watched the game 5, in the fifth inning, the Yankees completely melted down. Fucking errors left and right. They ended up giving up 5 runs in that inning. The Dodgers tied it up. And it was in me doing the process of clearing out my old patterns, right? I'm clearing out my old energy. And that inning for the Yankees was something like the Dodgers would have done in the past, right? It was almost like I shifted the fractal, right? And like I said, I mean, I'm not super seriously taking credit for it, but like
But you're kind of sort of are.
what I kind of sort of am, because I literally shifted the fractal in my own patterns. I shifted the fractal in my own life, and I
Do you know what
really
though? I'm gonna add to that real quick because the same way that people get together do mass meditations for causes for like weather shifts for things like that. Like, imagine how many people at the same moment must have been doing something similar to you, and
yeah.
you know what I mean? And
A
like
lot
you
of
all tapped into.
traumatized Dodger fans were probably going through their PTSD from past failures in the playoffs, and but I was in it, man. I was deep in my own traumas and just healing myself and getting rid of that angst. It's like, if it's visualization, right? It's a very powerful visualization. Meditation is a visualization. Like you come into the state where you're outside the body. You're in this like I can't even describe it. You have to experience it for yourself. But is literally clearing out old like stale energy out of my field. Right, I'm clearing
Yeah.
all this gray energy and bringing in white light energy, and like dealing with these traumas. A
Yeah, a
lot
lot
of
of it has to do with just acknowledging. A lot of it has to do with just acknowledging the fact that they're even there, that it's residing in you, and in acknowledging the fact that these energies are residing in you, it almost draws it out from you, and you're able by shedding light on it. You're shedding light on it by acknowledging that you are in fact that beast, that you have
yes.
that in you, and
Yes,
that's
it's like
a lot.
it was really deep shadow work that I was doing. I've had a lot of traumatic shit in my life. I almost died. I think I've talked about this. Almost died a couple of years ago from a really bad infection in my gallbladder. I almost died from a fucking cocaine seizure back in my 20s. I got attacked by a horse at medieval times. It's really traumatic shit, like really, really traumatic shit. And literally dealt with all of it. I went in and just slayed all these demons. I was fucking demon slaying, bro, in my fucking own energy field. Just to bring myself out of this, right? That I've tried so hard. This Dodger fandom has been somewhat toxic in a lot of ways. And yeah, it was like I shifted the fractal in my own energy field, and I saw it play out in the game. Like, and the Dodgers ended up coming back, winning the game, winning the World Series. It was this great moment with me and my mom. We hugged, and it was like exercising my own demons, exercise the Dodgers' demons,
Yeah.
and it was
I'm glad you
powerful.
put it I'm glad you put it in this way where you said this relationship has been very toxic to some degree. And I like that because um I think this is just one example of how we become attached to things and then they become toxic to us, you know?
Yeah,
And you could use this as an example, as one example of any many things in our lives, right? Not just our attraction to sports, but our attraction to people, our attraction to situations, our attraction to devices, our attraction to sometimes even danger or adrenaline, you know.
yeah.
Uh like these are things that we all need to acknowledge. We need to acknowledge that these are things that reside within us, in order for us to be able to overcome and put them under our control.
Mm,
The only real control is that you have over yourself, not anyone else. If you think you have control over other people, that's an illusion.
yeah.
People only allow you to control them as much as they allow you to control them until they say no more. So,
Which is an
yeah.
interesting dynamic when we're talking about the election. But I'll tell you what, man, when that last strike was, they struck out Alex Verdugo to end the game on the Yankees. They ended the game with a strikeout. And when that strikeout happened, man, it was like this 9,000 pound gorilla got taken off my back. It was like, I will never, ever, ever be that
Allow,
person anymore. It literally
allow,
changed. It
allow them.
changed. Like I was able to exercise those demons completely and forever. Like because they won, it's over. Like they won the World Series. It's done. Like I will never ever care about a baseball game again. Like in the same fashion, I will never chuck a fucking controller and hit my girlfriend's foot. It's done. It's over. And it was powerful, man. And
I love
I
the
don't.
correlation.
What's that?
But you don't what? I was gonna say I love the correlation to the election stuff, but you don't what?
No, I don't. It's never. It's something that's gone. I literally shifted my fractal, and I don't 100% like believe that I did it, but I kind of low key. I'm like, maybe I did, right? Like shifting it's a fractal, right? The whole reality is a fractal, and
Yeah.
I changed
I
that little
believe
bit.
I believe that you had a part in it. I
It's
believe that.
energetic. It was a huge
Yeah.
energetic shift that I was a part of, and we were in this like we talked about the astrological stuff that was going on. We were just the 11/1 portal the other day or yesterday. The new moon and the 11/1 portal, Halloween. It's like a lot of astrological stuff could have played a part of in it too. It's a lot of energies that we're dealing with in the cosmos, and it just all kind of aligned perfectly. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful that they won. I'm grateful that I was able to alleviate that demon that will never plague me again. So that's a little education on fractal evolution, guys. So what is it in your fractal that you can change that can evolve the entire consciousness, right? Is that we're all a part of this consciousness, and there's a lot of people that have Dodger fandom toxicity like I had, and maybe not. Maybe it's not Dodger fandom. Maybe it's a different team. Maybe it's a certain addiction. Maybe it's
Maybe it's
something.
political.
Maybe it's political. Boom, and let's fucking segue into that. So it's heating up, man. It's really heating up. There's a lot of. It's 3 days to go, and
I
it's
can feel
really
the tension
telling.
in the air. You can cut
Oh
the
yeah,
air with a
you
knife.
can cut the tension with a fucking knife, man. And it's I'm very happy and pleased to be an objective observer of the whole process because I can look at the problems on each side and identify them, right? That with each ideology, the left specifically, I have a lot of things to critique on the left. The right, it's the right's not really the right anymore. Like Trump is not like this is something that I really want to express, and it's how to fix the left, right?
Yeesh.
Because I am from Los Angeles, right? I grew up in a left-leaning state, and I socially and
Left
you know,
Angeles?
yeah, socially, I'm more liberal. I don't really think that our country should be run by right-wing conservative Christian values, right? Like, I don't think that we should be a theocracy. I think that is counterproductive to what this country is supposed to be. We're supposed to be open and free and open to ideas, right? It was what the foundation of this country was about: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to be yourself, freedom to be an individual. And I think that the right wing is counterproductive to that ideal, right? Which is why I trend more socially liberal, and but I see a lot of problems on the left, and I think that Trump is going to win this election, and I think that the left deserves to have Trump win this election, and I'll tell you why. Um, it's We've been going through this for 8 years now. The left has gotten hit with a lightning bolt of insanity by the Trump movement, and they don't seem to know how to pivot out of it. It's caused this division within our country, in the media, and in the people who follow that ideology, who identify as Democrats or left wing. And it's a problem. It's a real problem. And like I've said in the past, and I said in the last episode, I'm about bringing people together. I'm about the oneness of consciousness, the power of the individual, but the oneness of consciousness, recognizing that your neighbor is yourself. And there's so many problems on the left with this because they lack the ability to self-reflect, right? And this is, you could see it right now in that they're eating each other, right? Like Bill Maher is as left as it gets. He's a Trump hater, but even he sees it in the left-wing media. And one of the examples is this Liz Cheney stuff, right? Like Trump came out talking about Liz Cheney, how she's a war hawk, which she is. She's Dick Cheney's daughter. You know, Dick Cheney is the war hawk that ever war hawked. You know, and he's a
Say that
he's a
really fast.
he's a neocon through and through, which is one of the reasons I said in the last episode I can't get on board with Kamala in any way, because all these neocons are coming out in favor of her, which tells me that she is a system politician. It doesn't matter. And this is one of the things where the left, the things that the left can't pivot and realize is like, um, is that like the right wing isn't like the typical Christian person anymore, right? Like the right wing has become the rebel party, right? It's the contrarian party, and a lot of it consists of a lot of people a lot like me, right? Who feel left behind, but like the left, right? A lot of the Trump followers are people who the right never really cared about, and the left never bothered to try to appeal to. And I'm a straight white male, right? So the left has left us behind. Like, and we're low on the totem pole. Like our voice has been silenced. The straight white male is seen as the the colonist or the oppressor, right? So even though I lean left socially, my voice is completely shut out. Like nobody gives a fuck what I say. And this is probably going to fall on deaf ears, but I'm an objective observer of the problems on the left, and I could give you guys a lot of reasons why the left is going to lose this election. And maybe they don't, but even if they do win, the left is in trouble because they've left people like me behind. And a lot of it has to do with their messaging, right? They keep trumpeting out these celebrities, right? Oh, well, Cardi B supports Kamala Harris, you know, Eminem, or like take your pick. Harrison Ford came out in favor of Harris. All these obvious left wing, celebrities are coming out in favor of Harris, and this messaging doesn't work for the people in the middle, the people that are following Trump. Nobody gives a fuck about celebrities. Like nobody.
Mm-mm.
Like
That's the wrong call.
especially in this day and age with the fucking
Yeah.
P Diddy shit coming out and all the
Yeah,
Epstein's Island shit, and like
for sure.
we don't give a fuck about celebrities. One,
Mm.
two, like ever since Trump came on the scene, there's been nothing but attacks on his followers. Oh, they're Nazis. Oh, they're misogynists. Oh, they're this. It's all this sensationalism from the left, and they twist Trump's words and they lie. And this is one of the things that fucking Bill Maher was talking about, and a lot of people on the left don't like Bill Maher because he actually takes the left to task and tries to keep them honest and accountable, which, the left wing does not like accountability. They don't like to self-reflect, and they think that they're on this pedestal and they're above reproach. But Bill Maher was talking about this stuff with Liz Cheney, how the media twisted Trump's words to make it sound like, oh, Trump wants her in front of a firing squad, when all he really said was, like, she's a war hawk, and why don't we put her out in the field with a gun and have her facing down guns in a war? She wants to send your fucking boys to war. And Mark correctly pointed out, this is something that hippies would say, right? Is like, let her go fight the war. But the media twisted it, and now they're like trying to it's gotcha. Every little fucking clip is like they're trying to gotcha Trump. But then, meanwhile, Joe Biden characterizes all Trump followers as garbage, and then the media tries to backtrack his comments. The White House press staff tries to cover up the fact that he called all these Trump supporters garbage. And, oh, he didn't really say that, and it's a quantifiable lie. It's like they lie and lie and lie and lies on top of lies on top of lies, and it's
You know they say
quantifiable.
you know that they say I was told recently that there's a video floating around about Joe Biden biting some little boy in the stomach, like like
So Biden's been
very,
problematic from the get, and
yeah. And I remember,
the media suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop last election and really
right.
kind of cost Trump the election, because if the middle voters, right, this is where appealing to the middle, right, because the left fucks up because their messaging is only appealing to, they're only preaching to their own choir, which their own choir is only so big, right? To win an election, you need to appeal to these people in the middle. And
Yeah, they're definitely appealing to special interest groups, and there's picking and choosing which interest groups they want to mess with. And those interest groups tend to have a lot of influence and a lot of power, but they're just not that big.
it's the vocal minority that they're appealing to, and they've been browbeating and trying to bully people into following. Oh, Trump's a Nazi. If you follow him, you're a Nazi. And then Mark Cuban comes out and says, oh, like, all the women who follow Trump are dumb. And it's just all this blanket statements of like demonization of the right, demonization of anybody who wants to vote for Trump. And then that's how you get the contrarians, right? The contrarians are like, oh, the system wants Kamala, so I'm going to Trump. And it's like, so
Right.
I'm
You got to
just
go
trying
for
to
the money.
I'm coming at from an objective angle, right? Because I have no horse in this race at all. And a lot of people at this point of the race will be like, well, you got to pick a side. And the way I see it is, it's like telling me, going to a bar and seeing two random drunks fighting, right? And then somebody coming up and say, hey, you got to pick somebody to win that
Right.
drunk fight.
Well,
And it's like, I don't give a
there's
fuck about these drunks.
no, but here's the thing though, right? And this is the conversation I was having with my astrologer D the other day, which by the way, she said we did a really fantastic job on the last podcast, which is part one of this. So she sends her regards. But she's saying, um, it's if I had to choose the lesser of two evils, like I'm not saying that either side is a fucking saint, but they're both fucking evil. They're both inadequate and they're both not who I would choose. But if I had to choose one, who would I choose? Definitely not Camel Toe, but that's,
No, she's completely problematic, and there's just been
that's
this
my
extended effort to hide her shortcomings, right? And it just comes back to the lying, right? They lie and they lie and they lie, and it's quantifiable lies that you can point out. And
there's a
and the
saying,
only
that goes, you know how you know a politician is lying? Their mouths are moving.
mouths moving, yeah, and it's so obvious, right? And then another mistake that they make, right, is like Jimmy Kimmel came out, right, and he was trying to do this mea culpa to appeal to Trump voters and be like, well, there's been a lot of division, and people like me have been at fault, right? So he's trying to finally come to and be like and acknowledge that the left has done a lot to divide the country, which they have. The media, the fucking talk show hosts, across the board, right? The left
Oh
has
yeah.
been dividing this country, and because of their refusal to come to the table, right? It's just this. you listen to me and you believe what I believe, or you're evil, or you're the fucking problem. You're a Nazi. It's
Do
just
as I say,
this.
not as I do.
There's no room for wiggle, right? There's no gray area. It's black and white. You're either with us or you're against us. And if you're against us, you're a Nazi. And so Jimmy Kimmel comes out with this 19-minute monologue about trying to appeal to the middle, which is it's and middle and the Trump voters, which is fucking way past time for that. Like these people don't give, they're not going to listen to you. But one of the things he was talking about was, oh, look at all these Republicans that are coming out for Kamala. It's all the neocons I'm talking about in the last episode, where it's like I see these neocons and anybody that they want, I don't want because I see
Right.
that as system politics, right? Like these people are system Republicans that I went extensively that last episode into why, the whole Bush era Republicans are evil. They're fucking 100% evil. And I cannot get on board with anybody from the right wing not neoconservative movement, and they're all coming out in favor of Kamala. Liz Cheney and Barbara Bush came out. Who gives a fuck? Do you think that that's going to sway my opinion? It's going to put me
Yeah.
even more
If
adverse
anything,
to
yeah,
Kamala.
it only further reinforces my choice.
It's going to have the opposite effect. Now I'm fucking rooting for Trump. I'm not going to vote. I don't vote. I don't believe in this shit. But like, these are the
Yeah,
problems, right? This is like if the left wing wants to survive, you need to come to the table. Like, you need to come to the realization that there's a lot of straight white males in this country, and you're not going to be able to win any elections without us. So you can fucking poo poo my opinion. Oh, he's an oppressor. He's a part of the patriarchy, and we need to not listen to that guy. But this guy is fucking wise. I got the fucking key of Solomon right here, motherfuckers. Like I see things that most people don't, and I understand this shit on a level that most people don't. And I'm seeing it, and I honestly I want the social, like the left made huge strides in the 90s and the early 2000s with social acceptability of alternative lifestyles, and that's something that I think this country needs, and
yeah. They,
we need that freedom, right? We don't need
they did a good job at blurring the lines, is what they did.
well we don't need a theocracy. That's not the fucking that's not the spirit of America, right? We don't need to like hate Muslims because they're Muslims, right? We don't need to, hate lesbians or gays or trans people. We need to try
Well,
to
that's just
understand.
it, dude.
We need to
We don't need
understand
to,
each other.
that's just it, bro. We don't need to hate nobody, and that's the part that freaking blows my mind. Is like, it's frustrating. I'm sorry, it's
It's really
frustrating.
frustrating, dude, because people like
Yeah,
us, we understand people. Like I understand people. I understand people on the left, and I understand people on the right. I'm in a purple area, right, in Georgia right now, where there's people with Harris signs, there's people with Trump signs, and everybody seems to get along, right? There's this misconception about the South that they're all racist here, and they're not. It's fucking bullshit. It's a left and right coast misconception that's been programmed into the people in those bubbles.
yeah,
But
yeah.
there's a whole center of this country that decides elections that has been left behind, and they feel it. And it's not just New York and LA that runs this place. There's a whole lot of blue collar people that feel left behind by the left. And
Yeah, I think that's why Trump went around town riding a garbage truck and that orange vest thing he was wearing. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was fucking hilarious. Trump is hilarious, dude. Trump like low key knows how to work these people. That's
Yeah,
why he's gotten so much of a following. And people, and the left just wants to oh, because they're racist. It's like there's not 80 million Nazis in this country. I'm sorry to tell you guys, there are
no, there's
not
not.
80 million fucking Nazis in this country. There are people here who feel left behind by the left, and the
I,
and
I,
that
I I seriously believe that, yeah, there's people who may have a lot of hatred and bitterness inside of them, but I think if you were to put a gun in their hand and be like, oh, you hate him that much, pull the trigger, they wouldn't do it.
well,
Because I
no,
still
it's just
believe that
like
people inside,
we're talking about vocal minorities, right? Like the
okay.
left has their vocal minorities, and the right has their vocal minorities, and to characterize an entire fucking section of this country as Nazis because a few fucking Nazis are following Trump is fucking nonsense. And it's time that the left comes to this
Generalizing.
realization that they've been lying for too long, and people are getting wise to it. There's a lot of people that see the lies, and it's quantifiable lies. People like me, I see your lies. I see the lies of these politicians, and this is something I have to say to the fucking left voter is your politicians are fucking liars, and they're crooks and they're criminals, and they will say whatever have to say to get in office. Look at fucking Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom and Maxine Waters, and the list can go on and on and on of left wing politicians who are
We'll be here all night.
completely corrupt, and they don't have your values. They don't give a fuck about you, like George Carlin said. I'm a George Carlin fucking lover. I love George Carlin, and I feel like since we need somebody like him, because he was somebody that would fucking take shots at everybody, right? Because he saw it too. He saw the fucking bullshit. He saw through bullshit. And there's so many people in politics that are just bullshitters, complete bullshit artists. They will say whatever they like. The one thing I was talking about last episode was Trump's commercial about Kamala saying she's going to give transgender surgeries to inmates, right? And they've been running this ad nauseum, and it's something that bothers me because it's like that's just a fucking extremist. It's You're appealing to the people in the extreme with this ad. And there's so many more problematic things about Kamala that you could point at, but this transgender
Right.
surgery thing, and it's just causing wedges of division and more misunderstanding. And this is the
Well,
problem, right?
I think it's a lot of it's shedding light on like, hey, these are the types of policies you could expect from this administration. Like, like these are the types of things that will get resolved, quote unquote resolved, but that's again catering to a small select group of niche people. Whereas like the masses, they don't need that shit. The masses need we need to get more jobs, we need to get more employment, we need to get more people off the streets, we need to get people in homes, we need better healthcare. Like there's a number of things that we need. I'm not saying that those people don't need those things, but I don't think that that's necessarily life or death, to be honest, in my
No,
opinion.
but she only said that to appeal to that fucking vocal minority.
No,
She
I get
wasn't
it.
trying to appeal to the masses there. We're almost out of time, so we're gonna continue on with this election stuff. But guys, come on, think for yourselves. See the lies and understand that the politicians don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. To quote the great
Facts.
George Carlin. Well, are you tired of these lo-fi brands that use sweatshop labor that everybody wears? You looking for a t-shirt brand that's going to set you apart from all the normies? Well, it's time to ascend to another level of style with Alchemystic Apparel. Everyone in the fifth dimension is talking about it. Christ himself has his own shirt. He's the Lion of Judah. The devil himself wants to get in on the action, but he can't have one. You know why? Because I took his head and I put it on a shirt. I know what you're thinking. Mr. Alchemistic, I'm not a devastatingly handsome middle-aged man. I don't know if alchemistic apparel is for me. Don't be delulu like Lulu. Alchemistic apparel is for everybody. Get lucky with the four-leaf friends. Get Egyptian with Osiris. Got a bunch of haters? Pull a death card on them. Your mom is gonna love Mystic Pyramid. Heck, even dogs love alchemistic apparel. It's time to step out of three-dimensional clothing and step in to alchemistic apparel. The link is in my bio. And we are back for part 2 of Electile Dysfunction, Election Boogaloo. And to recap part 1, I told you guys how I used magic to help the Dodgers win the World Series. And now you see I'm wearing my Devil's Head shirt and the Raider cap. And I just want to say there's no amount of magic that will fix the Raiders.
Sorry, Lily. I know you
Yeah,
heard that.
we were also kind of going in pretty hard on the left and the problems that they have in their messaging, the problematic nature of their messaging. Just to recap, one was their incessant lying, their incessant attacks, and their insistence on using celebrities to push their message. And none of it seems to be falling on receptive ears. It's caused a whole wave of people to go red. But I want to talk a little bit about the problems with the red, with the right wing before we get any further. And I kind of touched upon it a little bit. There's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, this is a Christian nation." They want a theocracy. They want to control women's bodies, and they want to control people's lifestyles, and it's not in the spirit of this country to have such a government in place. And I understand, like I said, I understand both sides. I understand the issues the right has with the left, and I definitely understand the issues the left has with the perceived aims of the right. Right, is like that. There's a reason why I am so adamantly against the right wing, especially specifically the neocons. Is like they're like phony Christians, right? And their brand of Christianity isn't actually conducive to Christ's real teachings. It's all this like morality shit
I
that
think it's more theocratic.
yeah, it's trying to control people, right? Because I feel like the most evil thing in this human species is this desire to control others. And it's a reason why I don't go for either ideology, because they each seem to want to control the other in a certain way, and it causes friction and division.
You know what I was gonna say was it wasn't theocratic, I'm sorry. It's very theosophic. And I say that because, theosophy is a subject that we don't really touch upon in this podcast a lot, but a lot of the stuff that we talk about is actually founded on theosophy. And there's actually a theosophical society, which a lot of these very powerful people are part of. And this goes back to Rosicrucianism. This goes back to certain sectors of Christianity. Like you talking about, they're like not really Christians. Like, well, they have belief systems that are very similar to Christianity, but they're not. They're not Christian, you know. Um, and theosophy is one of the deeper underlying belief systems that runs this country. So you'll hear things like Christ and like Jesus and like the really popular terms, but their moral code, their understanding of the energetics behind their belief system is deeply founded on karma principles, on principles of dharma, on principles of white and black magic. Like this is just the most layman's way I could break down what their belief systems actually are. Um, and versus like the traditional person who goes to a church and they go and they hear their pastor or their preacher or whoever you listen to, your rabbi, they have a completely different belief system. And this goes back to our esoteric and occult, origins that many people aren't even aware of. But I
Yeah,
digress.
people don't really know that the founding fathers were actually Freemasons, right? And a great deal of them actually. And you see it in the architecture of our capital. There's a lot of sacred geometry. There's a lot of old Masonic stuff, and which is you get into masonry, Freemasonry, and you look into their belief structure and their systems. It's more of a mysticism than it is Christianity. It's a lot more esoteric and occult belief systems, and which is why they wanted freedom of religion. They didn't want to, because they came from England, which was very theocratic in that the Church of England controlled a lot, and then Europe in general was the power center of the Catholic Church. So when they came here to found this nation, they wanted a freedom of religion. They wanted people to be able to follow their own belief systems. So yeah, it's actually a lot deeper theosophically
Yeah.
than people understand. And like I said, they think, oh, this is a Christian nation. A lot of the right wingers, and it's really not. This is not founded as a Christian nation per se. But mind you, a lot of them were, you know, churchgoers, and but even in the right wing of today, like it just goes back to what I was kind of bringing the left to task about. They don't really believe what the followers think they believe, right? They don't give a fuck about you. they follow their own path, right? They say whatever they need to say to get elected, and then they do their own fucking thing. And the same thing with the right, right? They want all these, blue collar Christian people in the South, and the blue collar people, to think that they're Christian, right? And the Republicans are seen as the Christian party, but the leaders actually aren't really. They don't really, look at. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump's a Christian. Look at his morality, right? Look at the things that he's been divorced several times, and then there's people are bringing up this access. I think it was Access Hollywood where he's to grab him by the pussy, like that's not Christian, it's
No.
it's yeah, it people are disillusioned by the lies that are told by the leaders to get elected because they think that these leaders have their same belief system because the leaders say they do, but then they get
You know,
elected, you
you know,
know.
it's funny, but I remember watching this documentary on this guy named Roger Stone. I don't know if you remember the Roger Stone guy.
I think
He
so.
was he was a big part of like a big controversial character in the first election. And I remember seeing one of his interviews, and he said that politics is Hollywood for ugly people. That's the way you put it. And I
Yeah,
was like, okay. He's like, pretty much. He's like, it's all a puppet show, you know.
it
And
is. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. Like, do you think
yeah,
that Joe Biden's been running the country for 4 years? Do you think the president runs the country? This goes back to what I said in the first episode of this two-part election special. Is no president has ever affected my life in any way because ultimately you're in charge of your own life, and we give our power away to these people, thinking our leaders are powerful and that they actually can change things, and they never do.
right.
Because
Can I,
ultimately it's in your hands, and like we give our power away to because we don't want to take accountability for ourselves. We want to always blame, and this is one of the things I told my mom's husband is like the left has weaponized victimhood. They it's no never my fault. It's always finger pointing, but you got to remember that when you're pointing a finger, there's three fingers pointing back at you. It's an old, I think my grandma told me that. Like we need to take accountability for ourselves first and foremost, and then you change yourself, you change the world. If enough of us are willing to look account and take accountability and look in the mirror and self-reflect and do it as an individual, right?
it,
It goes back to the George Carlin thing about plotting in groups, right? People are beautiful in individuals, but when they start getting in groups, and this is something that I have a lot of friends on both sides, right? Like I have people who are conservatives or Trumpers or whatever, and then I have a lot of liberal friends being in Los Angeles, and one of my friends is non-binary, and they were talking to me about their problems with the LGBTQ movement. Is like there's a lot of gatekeepers, right? There's gatekeeping within these ideologies of like, well, you got to believe everything, right? Blah, blah, blah. If you're not, they have this laundry list of things. It's supposed to be LGBTQ is about freedom and being free to express yourself and all this stuff. But then there's all these requirements,
hmm,
and they were lamenting to me about how they feel left out. They're non-binary, they're not trans or gay, or they're non-binary, right? Which is kind of like there's just little subsects, and it just comes back to what I was talking about with Bill Maher about the left eating each other, because they have these gatekeepers who are like, well, these are all the fucking standards for being whatever, and it's like, no, it's supposed to be about the individual and the expression of the individual. And it's something that we lose when we caught up in groups in ideologies. And that's why I don't have a problem with both of these, the left and the right, right? It's like I said, the drunk in the bar. Like when there's two drunks fighting in the bar, nobody comes up and says, hey, choose who you want to win. Or, that's how I feel about politics and
yeah.
ideologies in general. Is like I see it as two drunks fighting in the bar, and I don't want to choose a side. I want them to go away and stop ruining everybody's good time. Like we're very similar, all of us. All of us, we all want this. Is something I talked about last episode. Is like we all want the same things in out of life. We want to be safe. We want to have a world that's safe for our families and the people we love, and we want to have our needs met and not have to worry about slaving to make enough money just to make ends meet. And a lot of that has been cast aside for shiny things and this common humanity, and I feel like this is where we need to be. It's going in this colossal shift in human consciousness is like this realization of oneness that we're all individuals in our bodies, but outside of these bodies, we're part of one consciousness, and
Well,
it's about breaking through that veil.
there's two things I want to cover on. One of them is I saw something recently, and it was kind of like a nice reminder. People think that our spirit is within our body, and it's actually the inverse, right? Our
The
body is within our spirit.
bodies inside our spirit, which our spirit
Right.
is God, it's consciousness.
Right.
I
So
think that
that's
was
the
Alan
first thing.
Watts. I think Alan Watts was talking about that. Is like your body's inside the spirit, and the spirit is all.
Well, it's very possible. I know that I was just browsing through YouTube, and I remember, like, this was very recently. It was just one of those things. It just kind of like popped up, and based on what you're saying, so that was the one thing. And then the next thing I wanted to touch upon was, you know, um, I know that briefly discussed a game plan for how we want to carry out the rest of this episode. So I want to briefly play a 3-minute clip that shows you how our administration is currently not taking accountability for things and the way that they respond to things. I love it because it shows exactly the type of deflection that's happening at the highest levels. And I'm only going to play one small clip because I literally, before this, when we were on a break, I sent B a list of 10 clips, which B, what we could do is if we could add those links that I sent you to the description on this video. I'll just play a brief 3-minute clip, and then there's more of those types of these types of clips in those links. You guys can go and check them out for yourself. They're really quite hilarious. And then I think what we'll do next is I think we're gonna dabble in a little bit of esoteric stuff. And I think we're gonna go ahead and tap and talk to Tarot and see what Tarot is gonna tell us about the elections coming up here. Is that accurate, B?
Sure, I can't wait. We got my
All right,
tarot
well,
deck here. I'm gonna
make
actually prep it while you're playing this. I'm gonna prep the deck, get my energy flow
perfect.
these cards.
Let let's do that. And meanwhile, guys, listen to this. Okay, this is Ted Cruz. And he's
How much is Iran selling in oil a day now? Somewhere short of 2 million.
Barbara Lee.
So it went from 300,000 barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day. That's about $80 billion that the Ayatollah has made because your administration refuses to enforce oil sanctions. No, we do enforce oil sanctions. But you do so terribly because the number has increased almost tenfold. You're saying it's a heavy cost. They went from 300,000 barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day. Where's the heavy cost? That's an extra 1.7 million barrels a day. That's $80 billion. True or false, 90% of Hamas's funding comes from Iran.
Listen.
No, not 90%. It is a large okay, how much is it then? I don't know. Of course, you're in charge of the damn region and you don't, what do you mean you don't know? At this exact moment, I can't tell you. All right, how much of Hezbollah's funding comes from Iran? Huge, huge amount. It's about 90%. Both of those are about 90%. Ambassador Leaf.
Oh, you can't.
You are the administration's point person on the Middle East.
It makes you turn invisible.
How's that working out? I love my job, Senator. Have things in the Middle East gotten better or worse since Joe Biden became president?
Listen.
We have had a series of black swan events, so no doubt the region is in a very difficult state. Is your answer things have gotten worse? My answer is that a series of black swan events have crowded Have they gotten better? You're not suggesting things have gotten better. No, I have not. In fact, they've gotten a lot worse. That's the nature of black swan. So it's black swans. You guys had nothing to do with it. It's not mistakes you made. It's just something that happened externally. Well, I think an assessment of the events of October 7th is still to be done. I can't speak to that. Okay, so did y'all make any mistakes that led to it?
If you've ever dreamed of owning an apartment complex and you live near one of these cities, you gotta take the same avenue.
Anyway.
I'm not sure. All right, here's one. How about giving hundreds of millions of dollars to the Gaza Strip, much of which ended up in the hands of Hamas? Was that a mistake now that we saw what happened on October 7th? I'm going to defer to my colleague from USAID. I'm not aware of hundreds of millions of dollars going to Hamas from U.S. coffers. All right, how about $100 billion to Iran? Was that a mistake? I'm not sure what you're referring to, Senator. Oh, you tell me. How much money has this administration flowed to Iran? We have not flowed money to Iran. Really? We have money in accounts that are restricted for humanitarian use only. And money's not fungible? This regime will always spend money on these kinds of activities, the proxy activities.
When Joe Biden became president, how much was Iran selling in oil a day?
I don't have that figure for you, Senator.
Of course you don't. The answer is about 300,000 barrels a day. How much is Iran selling in oil a day now?
Somewhere short of 2 million.
So it went from 300,000 barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day. That's about $80 billion that the Ayatollah has made because your administration refuses to enforce oil sanctions.
No, we do enforce oil sanctions.
But you do so terribly because the number has increased almost tenfold.
But because of the strictures that we put on, the sanctions that we put on, the targeting that we've done, 230 alone directed towards those who traffic in Iranian oil, that has imposed a heavy cost on Iran. And we estimate that
wait. You're saying it's a heavy cost. Mm-hmm. They went from 300,000 barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day. Where's the heavy cost?
I mean, these people are completely out of their fucking minds. They are incompetent.
Yeah.
Incompetent, to say the least. Okay. They're like,
well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you could use Occam's razor and say, you know, why attribute something to malice that you can attribute to incompetence. But also, I don't think they care. I just don't. Well, yeah. I don't think they care about it. And it's.
Like I said, that's just one small example of how they're not taking blame for anything. They're just saying, like, oh, there's black swan events. It wasn't us. We couldn't control it. And so there's collateral damage. It's like, yeah, understood, but when it happens over and over and over and over, like, where do you draw the line? And I mean, there's some videos in there that just shows blatant, like there's this one I sent you that the Attorney General Garland put out this memo that basically targeted parents as fucking domestic terrorists, bro. If they called to complain about their kids' education, they became domestic terrorists. And he's like, I never saw that memo. He's like, that's what concerns me. He's like, it has your signature, and you said you never saw the fucking memo. You're the Attorney General. You're in charge of 115,000 people, and you never saw this. You just targeted every parent in America. Like, what the fuck are you doing? And the guy said, you should resign for that. You should resign for that, for being grossly incompetent.
Well, that's system politics for you, man. They don't care. It's part of the systematic destruction of the nation, right? It's globalism. They want a globalist. They want a one world government. It's what the system politics is leading to, and whether it's right wing or left wing, that's why I can't get behind anybody that gets that like I can't get behind the neocons backing Kamala, because it shows that she is a system politician. She's a puppet. She's a puppet to the system, which is moving us towards big government, and then giving that power to a globalist fucking power structure, a globalist centralized power structure. And ultimately what they need, the reason why the Middle East is so fucked up is because the Middle East is one of the obstacles to a globalist government, because the Middle East is so they're isolationists, right? Like the Middle East, they don't want any part of the globalist agenda, so they have to be destroyed, and that's why the Middle East is just a fucking hotbed of shit.
Pawn in the chess game.
It is. It's they're playing Risk. It's what's going on. It's what's going on in the world behind the fucking illusion, the puppet show. Is there's a Risk game being played by the globalists. They're trying to knock out. The United States is one of them. We're one of the big obstacles to the globalist agenda. This is why COVID hit us so hard. It's why they tried to fucking destroy this place. They're trying to destroy our economy. Is they need to bring the United States to its knees. They need to bring the Middle East to its knees, and have these, like the Middle East has so much money from oil. Like these princes and shahs and like these families that run the Middle East have so much money. Right. So the global economy has to collapse in order for the globalists to take control of the risk board. So the Middle East has to be rife with conflict. These nations need to be brought down, and that's what they want to do. This is why, I mean, and I'm definitely no apologist for Israel either. I think Israel a lot of is Hamas and Hezbollah has been infiltrated by Mossad, which is Israel's CIA.
Yeah.
It's a fucking it's a show. It's game warfare. Look at game warfare. Game warfare is using pawns that you control, like infiltrating both
Right.
sides.
To
You know,
turn people against each other.
yes, this is what game warfare. So they don't have to ever shoot their own shit. They don't ever have to
Right.
have any wars. Like the whole Iraq war was a proxy war for Israel, right? To get Saddam Hussein out of power. Like the same thing that happened in Libya, the coup of fucking Gaddafi in Libya was about getting rid of him because he was trying to make a gold backed currency for Africa to separate, get Africa separate from the rest of the world because Africa's been raped. Africa has been raped by the colonial powers for the last couple of 100 years for all their insane amount of resources. Africa has an
Mhm.
insane amount of fucking
Wealthiest
gold
nation.
and silver and fucking gems, and it's just Africa has so many resources, and Gaddafi was trying to get Africa to have its own currency. And you look at like Libya under Gaddafi, there was a 95% literacy rate, right? He was educating his people. The people were happy. And then our CIA went in there and disrupted that government and they unseated Gaddafi. And that place is a fucking shithole now because they don't give a fuck about Africa. They don't give a fuck about these people. They want the control of the resources. This is a fucking risk game. And anybody who comes up against it gets taken out. It's the same thing that
Right.
happened in COVID. A lot of there is a the Tanzanian president was killed because he didn't want COVID vaccines there, so they killed him. And they made up this fucking lie that he got sick or had a heart attack or something, right? They shot him with the heart attack gun, which is real. Look it up. The heart attack gun is fucking real. It shoots an
I
ice
think
dart.
it's the Havana syndrome. Look at Havana syndrome or DEWs and Havana
Yeah.
syndrome. Look at
It's
so
it's the black government. The black government is the CIA, the
the
Mossad, the
shadow
fucking
government.
MI6. It's the
Yeah, the
shadow
shadow
government.
government.
They are the army of the shadow government. And if you once you like see beyond the illusion, beyond the veil, these things become apparent to you. You start to see it. And Gaddafi was demonized in this country as this dictator, but meanwhile his country was unbelievably affluent when he was running it, and he wanted to take them off, take that they wanted to make Africa independent of the rest of the world. He wanted to bring up that entire continent, and he was succeeding in his own country, and he was a threat, so they had to fucking take him out. Anyway, that's the
Yeah.
risk game that is being
On that
played in
note,
the world.
we
So
got something special for you guys.
we
And
got a
you can
little
go ahead.
treat for you. I'm going to use my Alchemistic Tarot deck designed completely by my beautiful artwork. As you can see, a couple of my recent pieces up here. This is Spiral, and this is the Philosopher's Stone. And I've got 78 of my own artwork, original pieces on these tarot cards. So we're going to do a little election bingo here on what we can expect from this election. Alex is going to use AI to interpret. So, what do you think? Should we do a three-card pull?
I was gonna say, if we could do, yeah, I guess we could do three cards. Let's do three cards to see, uh, three cards on each, right? Three cards on Donald, three cards on Kamala, and then three cards on what we could expect for the outcome of the term.
Okay. Outcome of the election.
Meaning, meaning like what we could expect for their administration, like the energies that administration will carry with them, I guess you could say. So three cards for Trump, three cards for Kamala, and then three cards for their administration and what we could expect from their administration, whoever it is, you know. Does that make sense, or how would you frame it?
um, so three-card pulls usually past, present, future of
Oh, okay.
right? So, um, let's think of how we can kind of structure this reading because I don't want it to come out too muddy. Let's find it. Let's do um let's do a five card and we'll just do election result. Election
How would
result.
you know? How would you know the determination between right or left? How would you? How could you frame it to give you an answer for that?
Well, let's see. So the cards have masculine, feminine, right? Like so there's like the Queen of Pentacles, for example, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
um so let's just see what comes up. Let's just see
Okay.
what comes up. And then we'll try to interpret it with AI. Sound good? I'll
Okay.
do five
Yeah,
cards. So let's do five
for sure.
cards. Election. Five of Cups. Check out Five of Cups. Knight of Cups. And we're just going to do upright meanings. Don't worry about the reverse meanings.
Okay, so it's a Knight of Cups.
Five of Cups, Knight of Cups are the first two cards for the election. And then we've got Queen of Wands,
Which one?
Queen of Wands,
Oh, Queen of Wands.
the third. Ooh. And then two came out at once. Oh,
It's okay. It's okay. Give it to me.
three of Wands, and the result is the Hanged Man.
Three of Wands and Hanged Man. All right.
So I'm seeing, okay, so I kind of like,
Give me your interpretation, and then I'll tell you what AI says.
so I'm interpreting it as, okay, the Knight of Cups is a masculine. I would say it's Donald Trump. Queen of Wands is a feminine. I would say that's Kamala Harris. Um, the Hanged Man is exactly what you would interpret it as. It's exactly how it sounds. The Hanged Man. So I'm seeing it as well. The Five of Cups isn't great. I'll interpret it in my own way. Let me just I kind of have an idea. So the first card, right? Five of Cups upright, regret, failure, disappointment, pessimism. That'd be the overall energy, is how I would interpret it. The overall energy of how the nation's feeling about this election. Regret, failure, disappointment, and pessimism. I think pessimism would be the highlight of those four words, those four interpretations. So I would say we're very pessimistic at this point
So,
of this
so,
election
so I'm gonna.
going into it.
So
Right?
after you give me yours, I'm gonna give you what AI gave it, so we can do a back and forth real quick, and we
Okay.
can run through. So it gave me the Five of Cups. This card often symbolizes loss and disappointment, suggesting that one or both candidate may face significant challenges or feelings of regret. It could indicate a focus on what has gone wrong rather than what is still possible.
I would say this. I would kind of agree with that, but I don't think it would be I would say this is the overall um, energy of the country is pessimism, right? Going into the election, first card, going into the election, there's pessimism, right? Um, and Knight of Cups, like I said, I feel is a kind of a Donald Trump energy. Knight of Cups, charm, imagination, creativity, romance. So I would say this is maybe the Trump supporters. They have a romantic belief in Donald Trump, right? He's a very romantic figure in their eyes, right? He's charming. Um, he's creative, obviously, with this whole fucking garbage truck shit. So this is the energy of Donald Trump to his supporters, and to I would say the Queen of Wands is probably how the people would view Kamala on her side, which the Queen of Wands, exuberance, warmth, vibrancy, determination.
So it's funny. It's funny because you know what? I'm gonna tell you this. For Knight of Cups, right? It actually gave me. It actually connected Kamala to it. Let me read it. It's a Knight of Cups. It said this card represents idealism, charm, and the pursuit of dreams. It may signify Kamala Harris's approach, emphasizing emotional connection and vision. She may appeal to voters through her empathy and progressive ideals. It's hilarious.
I would say it's more Donald. I was okay. So the way I'm interpreting it, right, is we have pessimism over the election. The people view Donald this way, right? His supporters view him this way. Kamala's supporters view her this way, right? And then we got the Three of Wands. This is I think what we're hoping for, right? It's just this would be the hope of the result before we get the result. And the hope of the result is progress, expansion, foresight, overseas opportunities. This and these are just very simple interpretations that I'm looking up here. Like these aren't very in depth, but I'm just using those as a way for me to like fuel my own interpretation of it.
Right?
I would say so. This is how we feel right now. Pessimism. This is how the candidates are viewed, right? Even though this could be either way. Like this blue would say Democrat, right? But it's a masculine energy. This is red. It is a feminine energy. But um, the Three of Wands, I think, is very appropriate. Um, we hope for progress, expansion, um, and then the
So,
Hanged Man, I would say, is the
so,
result.
so before we get into that, it says here for the Queen of Wands, which we just passed before the Three of Wands, it says this card embodies confidence, charisma, and leadership. It could reflect Donald Trump's strong presence and ability to energize his base. His assertiveness and ability to inspire could play a crucial role in this campaign. And for the Three of Wands, it said this card indicates foresight, exploration, and looking to the future, which you said. It said it suggests that voters may be considering the long-term implications of their choice, possibly favoring candidates who present a clear vision for the future. Interessante.
Hmm.
And then the Hangman, go for it.
So the Hanged Man can be interpreted many ways, right? It could be a positive card, it could be a negative card. It's so upright, pause, surrender, letting go, new perspectives. Reversed, delays, resistance, stalling, indecision. So if we look at it in the reverse, we could be in store for what we kind of had last election, which is what I'm afraid of, right? I'm afraid that there's going to be some kind of resistance to the result, but I feel like letting go and new perspectives is what we really need to look at out of this election. Is we need to have some new perspectives on each other as individuals, as people on opposite sides of the spectrum need to let go of their and surrender to the result, whatever it may be,
Surrender to the
and try to come to a more human place, which is
yeah,
what hopefully is what the result is. So
yeah.
my
I
worry
think
is that it would be maybe interpreted in the reverse, that there could be delays, resistance, stalling, and indecision. But ultimately, I think we all need to just kind of let go, whatever the result may be. Let's let go of our of our
expectations.
let go of expectations, but also like let go of the division that has been marked by the last 8 years. Like even if Donald Trump wins, lefties, like we need to just come to terms with the fact that sorry about that, guys. We got interrupted by the end of the Zoom session. I had to reboot, but it gave me a minute to kind of really delve into the cards and their meanings and how to interpret it. But we left off. Alex was about to give you AI's interpretation of the final card, which was the Hanged Man.
Yes. So AI gave me the Hangman, and then it gave me an overall interpretation, which I'll get into, and then I'll let B give his version. So it says for the Hangman, this represents suspension, new perspectives, and letting go of old patterns. It might indicate that the selection could lead to unexpected outcomes or a shift in public opinion, urging voters to reconsider their choices or the status quo. So the overall interpretation, the reading suggests a contentious election with emotional highs and lows. Harris may appeal to voters seeking change and a hopeful future, while Trump might rely on his established base and charismatic presence. The outcome could hinge on how voters perceive the candidates' visions and their ability to adapt to shifting sentiments. That's all
Actually,
it said.
That's pretty. I mean, that's pretty good.
You're like, oh damn, I wasn't
The
expecting
great
that.
thing about tarot is it's very open to interpretation. Now, I don't like to use tarot as divination. I don't like to like prognosticate the future based on a tarot card reading. I think a lot of like originally tarot was not used as a divination tool. It was a part of a game, right? But what the tarot symbolism is the different energies of life, and specifically the major arcana, right? Which ending on a major arcana is very significant here because the major arcana are life lessons, right? It's like part of the fool's journey. You go through the different stages of life in the hero's journey or the fool's journey, right? And come up on the hanged man's very it speaks
Telling
to kind of the energy of the nation right now, and if we
well
read it
on
upright, pause, surrender, letting go, new perspectives. I see that as the advice of the tarot is like we need to pause, surrender, and let go of the result and have a new perspective on each other. And this is what would be healthy for the nation upright, right? And we could take it any way, right? It depends on us. It all because the future's not written yet.
that.
It's
Like,
we're
like Doc Brown
still
said.
shaping the fractal. It's kind of like it kind of goes back to what I was talking about in part one, where I was talking about how I changed the fractal in my meditation and helped the Dodgers win. But like the future is uncertain and the end is always near. But So this is how I was kind of called to view it, right? Because I get intuitions on with the cards, and like I said, I don't like to use it as a divining tool. I like to use it as advice. That's how I structure my readings when I do them. Um, and one of the things I was kind of called to do is look at it from both perspectives. Because we have two, we're trying to give a tarot reading for the nation, right? Um, and the Five of Cups, the first card, regret, failure, disappointment, pessimism. We're all kind of pessimistic, no matter what the result is, right? We're going into this with pessimism. For the reverse,
Yep.
it's personal setbacks, self forgiveness, and moving on. Like I think that's an important thing. Moving on. We need to move past this period in human history. In history of this nation, we need to move on past this pessimism.
Yeah.
We need to move on from it. We need to
I
get.
think it's safe to say that you're just doing a collective energy check-in right now. That's what it is.
I'm trying to look at it from all the angles, right?
Yeah.
And get the advice of the tarot. They have tarot upright. I mean, and overall, the energy is pessimism, right? But if we look at it reversed, it's fucking move on already, guys. It's telling us to move on, right? That's how I see it, right? So that's the first card. We need to move on, no matter what the result is. We need to move on past this period in history where we're at each other's throats over politics, which ultimately doesn't matter. We have the Knight of Cups, which is a masculine water energy, right? We have two water cards here. Masculine water energy. I interpret it as Trump, but the AI interpreted it as possibly Kamala. And the blue color, the Democrats are blue, which is masculine energy, upright, creativity, romance, charm, imagination, beauty. Reverse, overactive imagination, unrealistic, jealous, moody.
Mm.
So that's why I see it as Trump, right? That the people who see him positively see him as charming. They have a romantic view of him as a leader, right?
Yeah.
And then the people who don't like him see him as overactive imagination, unrealistic, jealous, moody,
Yeah.
right?
It's interesting. Yeah.
Um, so that's how I interpret the Knight of Cups is it's Trump, and those are the two different ways you can perceive him. And then the Queen of Wands I interpret as Kamala, right? Exuberance, warmth, vibrancy, determination is how her supporters see him. Aggressive and demanding would be the opposite. It would be how she's demanding, the left is demanding you submit to their will and bend the knee, and that's how I see this. It's Kamala, and then she's perceived, or the left is perceived as aggressive and demanding. um so I think that's pretty appropriate. And then the Three of Wands, um, upright, and this would be the for our hope, right? Progress, expansion, foresight, right? We want progress. I think no matter on either side, we want to have progress. We want to get past this point of where we're at. I think a lot of us can agree on that. We want to see progress, no matter who the winner is, whether you want Trump or you want Kamala. You want to see progress in this nation. We want to progress past this very contentious time in American history. And playing small, lack of foresight, unexpected delays would be what we don't want. Nobody wants unexpected delays out of this election. We do not want the same result we had in 2020, where it was just fucking long, drawn out bullshit, right? So that's the hope, right? With the hope is progress, expansion, right? What we don't hope for is unexpected delays. So I think energetically, that's very right on. This whole thing, that's just a fascinating pull, man. It's fascinating to me.
I
Um,
can see the bewilderment.
yeah, it's really kind of tripping me out, especially the interpretation that's coming through energetically, of how to interpret this for everybody. So the Hanged Man is the last card. Pause, surrender, letting go, new perspectives. That's what we. That's I think the tarot is advising us: letting go, surrender,
Mm,
pause, and new perspectives. This is what we need in the result, no matter who wins, no matter who wins,
yeah,
right?
we all
And
need
um,
it. Yeah.
and the reverse is delays, resistance, stalling, indecision, right? Stalling in this energetic stagnancy that we've been in for 8 years. We have to get out over that, and that's the advice that I think that's the advice of the tarot is that we can either stall and delay and
Our progress.
resist progress. We resist by staying in the stagnant energy, or we
We
can
move
we
forward.
can pause, surrender, let go, and have new perspectives on each other and on the potential for this nation. I think that's very fascinating. That's how I
Yeah,
interpret it.
that's a good interpretation. I like it. I like it
Uh,
better than the eyes.
yeah, AI is what it is. It's going by the data that it has at its disposal. It can't tap into the energy of the cards like I can. These are my cards, so it's like my energy is fully. I made them, right? I
Yeah,
made them, and I did the reading. So I think I'm a little more.
in
I'm a little
tune.
little more up to the task of interpreting what it's trying to say. But I didn't hate AI's interpretation either. Like it interesting perspective that it offers. But that's how I see it, guys. And it brings me back to the overall message that we're trying to get across in this time of great shift. Um, is it's time to put this shit in the past, right? Letting go, pause, surrender, letting go. It's time to
Right.
let go of this time and period in history. And even if Trump wins, for all of you people who are going to cry in the streets and maybe burn a lot of stuff if he wins,
Burn a lot of
it,
stuff.
it's time to let go, right? If he wins, people on the left, if he wins, just give him 4 years, right? And let's let go of this division and see what he can do, right? It's time to let go of and stop falling for the fucking okey doke of division. And the same goes for if Kamala wins, right? I you know, the astrology we detailed in the past is like the energy of the time right now is astrologically is a giant shit sandwich. But ultimately, it's up to us to respond to the energy. It's up to us to um,
We're
be
the
able
feedback.
to respond appropriately to the energy that's given us, and we can either stall in this stagnant, fucked up, divisive energy that we've been in for almost a decade now, or we can let go and come together. And I ultimately, if we don't, it's going to spell disaster. And we can take this bite of this shit sandwich, or we can throw the shit sandwich in the trash and say, no, we're not going to let the energy dictate. We're going to dictate what the energy. We're going to dictate our own energy and response to what reality's throwing at us. And It's not the circumstances we're put in, whether it be our life or in the collective energy. It's not it's not the circumstances we're put in, it's how we respond to it. And I think ultimately that can help us either progress and evolve in this state of shift that we're in consciousness, or we can burn it all down and destroy ourselves.
Yep. The choice is ultimately ours.
Absolutely.
So So on that note, we're gonna try and make our do our best to keep this, shorter than the last one. We're gonna do also our best to try and make more of these little blurbs and make them more available to you guys. Thank you all for liking, commenting, subscribing, and just following along our journey. Um, we're just here to try and offer different perspectives to the same BS that we all see. And we're not saying that ours is right and that yours is wrong. We're just saying that this is just our perspective, and we're always open to a good dialectic, a good conversation, a good debate. And if if things make sense, then let's chat. Otherwise, I'm very, very firm on my stance about not being able to speak reason into unreasonable people. So I will reserve my right on that. And
And ultimately, our message is just like look in your neighbor's eyes, like let's stop categorizing people and labels. I am a big proponent of Alan Watts had a famous, I'm not going to quote him at verbatim because I don't remember the quote verbatim, but it was um it was about labels, right? And we've been in this period the last 8 years where we're quick to label each other and demonize each other and separate and add to the division of the time. But labeling people is and labeling ourselves. When Alan Watts said, like, never label yourself because you're quantitatively greater than any label you could put on yourself. You're a human being. You're a powerful creature made in the image of the Creator, and anything beyond that leads to problems, right? Like you're devaluing yourself when you put a label on yourself. To sum up what he said, you're so much more valuable than just, oh, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican or I'm a Christian or I'm LGBTQ. These ideologies are at each other's throats, and this is ultimately. I was talking about Albert Pike's letter to Giuseppe Mazzini and powers that be World War III. In his letter, he was talking about the three world wars, the script for the three world wars that were coming in the 20th century. And he was spot on what happened with the first two. Look up this letter and read it. He was spot on. He knew what was coming. He knew what the plan was. And the Third World War was an ideological war. It was about pitting the ideologies against each other and getting them to destroy each other so they could bring about a one world government. And ultimately, I feel that that spells disaster for us if we allow it to happen. And it's all in our hands, like we said. And just stop allowing ideologies to pit each other against each other because ultimately we are one. And the labeling each other and labeling ourselves devalues us and degrades us and keeps us in that state of degradation that we've talked about over and over again. That lower state of vibration of it's devolved. And it's time for that to end. This is the shift in consciousness. Is we're coming back to this realization that we are all one, and that your neighbor, when you look in his eyes or her eyes, you will see yourself if you
yeah,
allow it.
I actually want to give you guys another perspective in saying it's really easy to try and cut yourself out from the picture and saying no, I'm nothing like anyone else, right? It takes an incredible amount of strength to say, you know what, I'm exactly like all of you, and to not exclude yourself because you're no different than anybody else, right? But think about that. Think about that, how easy it is for you to disown yourself or to disassociate yourself, and think about how difficult it is to put yourself in the same category, in the same label, in the same shoes as everybody else. It takes a lot more strength to do that. And then that's how you learn forgiveness, because you learn that damn, I recently met somebody who's very identical to me in very many ways, and when I hear certain things or I feel certain way, I'm like, oh man, like it's like I'm dealing with myself. And so yeah, I think it's really important that we do that, and then only then can we realize that we're B and I, we are the same person. And so are you, audience member, whoever you are. Like we're just a fractal of each other. So anyway, on that note, I
Let
love
me
you
give some
guys.
party thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead. You can do that. I'm done.
So on that note, you know, you struck a chord, and it's so we talk about oneness and individuality, right? And what the narrow path is. The narrow path is being able to find the middle ground between those two things, right? We're individuals, but we're also one, you know, and it's coming to the middle point between the two is like is knowing that you are an individual and you're very powerful, but you're also no different than your neighbor in a lot of ways. And it's trying to strike that balance. And it's difficult. It is difficult to do because it kind of seems like contradictory, but that's the nature of our reality is we're living in a paradox. So you have to come to this paradoxical point where you realize, yes, I am Brandon, but I am also one with the creator. And it's like, don't get rid of this and don't get rid of this. Find the middle ground, walk that razor's line of the narrow path and realize that you are a powerful individual made in the image of the creator, but you're also the creator. He's playing all parts. The Brahman is playing all parts, and it's we're all part of the drama of the Brahman. And when once you get into that river, once you can kind of sink into that realization, life becomes much more meaningful, and it's a lot easier um to react appropriately to everything. Right? It's
Yep.
all just this awesome experience. We're just a different piece of the creator experiencing the
Yeah.
creation, you know. And it's I'll leave it on the Rumi quote, right? You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the entire ocean in a drop. We love you.
Peace.